Hey, and welcome. Today's episode will be number 3 for my Rush series. This will be Caress of Steel. That's this right here. So we will get going in just a sec. So, Caress of Steel. This came out 1975. This was the second record they put out in 1975. Fly By Night had come out earlier. They recorded this in the summer, and it came out in September. This album found them moving further away from their kind of blues, Zeppelin-inspired stuff towards more of the prog rock that they became known for. I found, for me, I found it reminiscent or similar to albums in a few they did later, such as maybe Hemispheres and stuff like that. Not really any big singles that came off of this record. There was 2 singles, but one was part of the song too. The songs themselves, you have Bastille Day, which is the one I always knew the most, but wasn't actually one of the singles. But they had The Return of the Prince was one of the singles, and Lakeside Park was the other one. So anyway, Lakeside Park was actually named for a place in Toronto where they, close to where they lived, where the band grew up. It was in that area. I think I'm Going Bald was a song that was inspired by Kiss. They toured with Kiss quite a bit in the 70s, in the early days. And of course, Kiss have a song called Going Blind. So I think I'm Going Bald was kind of, I guess, a riff on that, or a tribute, or an inspiration anyway. The Necromancer is the last track on side 1 of Caress of Steel. It's a 3-part. It has Into Darkness, Under the Shadow, and Return of the Prince. Return of the Prince was taken and made into a single, so those were the 2 singles they had. The Necromancer actually comes inspired by J.R.R. Tolkien. As you can see, Neil Peart's influence, and his lyric writing would certainly really started to take over, especially when you get to this kind of stuff. Necromancer was also it was featured. It was a alias of Sauron in the book The Hobbit. So that's part of where that came from. Side 2, this is the record, by the way, my copy on Mercury. Side 2 is one whole side, which this is something they did two other times in their career. On 2112, they did side 1, the 2112 piece was all one side, and then the Hemispheres, they also did a whole side as well. So those are 2 things, which is kind of why this makes me think of those records a little bit too, because of that thing. But yeah, it's a 20-minute piece on side 2. This wasn't. It's probably. I assume this is one of their least well-selling records. It didn't do as well, certainly as the record company had hoped. They were looking more for stuff similar to their first album. Didn't have big hits, but I think it's kind of underrated. I think it's a great record, and fits in well with a lot of the stuff they did. One thing that's interesting is the cover, which was supposed to be silver because it's Caress of Steel. It was supposed to steel. They felt that the silver would reflect the theme more, but it turned out gold, and they never changed it. So, you know, these things happen, I guess, when you're doing artwork, and it doesn't always work out the way you want. But it was so poorly, I guess, received by the record company that the tour they did, they referred to as the Down the Tubes tour. So they figured there might, they thought they'd be dropped by the label. They weren't, and as we'll go into in the next video in this series, you'll see what happened after this album, and when they did 2112 and everything that happened with that story. But for today, that is all. This is Rush, Caress of Steel. This is their third record, 1975, episode 3 in the books. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope everyone's having a great day. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you all in the next video.